You're listening to episode number 15 of the Play Your Position podcast.
Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. Here's your host, Mary Lou Kaser. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, Mary Lou Kaser here, and welcome to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I am super excited about my guest today, Julie Starr Hook. Julie, are you ready for kickoff?
I'm ready. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. So Julie Starr Hook is the founder of 5 Star Organizing and Design, which is a company that helps people do what it sounds like, get organized. And she has been doing organization for people for over 10 years. And before that, she was a stay-at-home mom, as well as a newspaper columnist for a local Northwest newspaper. Julie has a degree from the University of Oregon and, like I said, is a proud mom and a proud business owner. And so, Julie, listeners of the Play Your Position podcast are super interested in hearing stories about mastery, specifically how each of my guests have achieved mastery in the position that they currently play. So why don't we start the show off with you sharing a story about how you became a professional organizer and what playing that position has meant for your life.
I was a stay-at-home mom for several years, and then I went to this, it was a mom's group, and I met somebody there that just on the side would organize homes. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I like that idea. So, we talked a little bit about what she did, and then I thought, I'm gonna kind of take this idea and start implementing these organizational ideas into my home. And then all of a sudden, my friends would come over and say, I liked how you organized your kitchen. Could you come over and do mine? And then I had little children at the time, and so it was a break for me. I said, hey, you can watch my kids while I organize your kitchen. So anyway, it was kind of a little break away from the children because they were very young at the time and, real busy bodies. And so it was kind of giving me like a little mental break that allowed me to do something very creative. And then I just really started enjoying it, and more people found out about what I did, and I just got, I got a following. And then at that same time, I had been reading the local newspaper, and they had started a section called the Real Living section, and they had a column called In Its Place, and it was an organizing column. But the person doing the column was just a reporter, and I could tell that she was just a reporter, and she really didn't know a whole lot about organizing. So at that time, I decided to pursue called statesmen and talk to them about my interest in organizing. And then I wrote them some sample columns, and then they ended up giving me the columns. And so I wrote that for almost 7 years. And the neat thing was that it solidified my business because I was in the paper every week talking about organizing. And so people saw my picture, they saw my, my links to my website and that sort of thing. It was just like a natural segue, this paper article for my job. And that was the biggest thing I could have done to, make a difference on, on the growth of my business.
Well, you can never underestimate the power of having that weekly publicity through a written column. And I know times have changed somewhat where now people are turning to blogs and online newspapers, but the act of writing about what you know and putting it out there is still the same. It's not really so much the medium through which it's delivered. It's just that you every week were sitting down and sharing valuable information that was useful to readers, that helped build up your brand and reputation. And that then led you to having a book of business that I think you've said to this day, you have quite a few repeat customers because they know, like, and trust you.
Right. I am so blessed to have these return customers. People ask me, they go, gosh, I still can't believe you're working with so-and-so, still. And so that makes them curious to say, are you doing a good job for them if they want your repeat business, and if they keep on coming back, like, did you not finish organizing after all these years? What happens is, let's say I'll organize a client's house. Well, then they'll want me to come back and say, oh, could you, help me with my bills? So then I might go in, once a month to pay their bills. Or can you help me with Christmas shopping? Or can you help me, decorate for the holidays? And so with some of my clients, it's actually become where I'm more of a kind of a personal assistant for. And I call that's my bread and butter business, because I still have many, many clients, from my past. And we have built such a relationship. And so it's expanded into other areas of our life. But again, it's organizing is such a huge umbrella. But there's just many things under that umbrella. And for me, I've always thought, some people ask me, well, what would you feel about paying bills for me once a month? And I'll say, hey, let's give it a try and see how it works. I would encourage viewers to look at those things that people ask of you and stretch yourself once in a while. It's okay to say, you know what, I've tried this for you. I realize it's not my bag. I don't enjoy doing it. Or, I think you could find somebody else better to do whatever service. Sometimes when you do stretch yourself and you do look at opportunities to build your business and to grow your business and with the same customers, it's exciting because you can create more business. And so again, don't hesitate to do stuff outside of your box a bit.
Yeah, I really like that differentiation that you're talking about. Within our umbrella business, there's usually room for us to find other ways to serve clients that may not be the completely obvious idea, but it evolves over time. And I think that's a nice segue into the part of the show that I call Move the Chains, which for football fans, that this is when the team is marching down the field trying to get the ball into the end zone, and all manner of chaos and excitement can happen during that process. And so, Julie, if you wouldn't mind sharing a story about a time when you had a goal, you knew where you wanted to go, but on the way you got intercepted or sacked or something happened. Maybe you have a great story about a specific client without naming names that you could share, where you went into it thinking one thing and it turned out to be completely different.
One thing I used to do, and it was a really bad habit, and I was an early bird. I thought being an early bird was okay. So somebody said, okay, I want you to my house at 8:30. I might come at 8:25. Because I as being organized, I never wanted to be late, right? And so I grew up like that. Well, then I had a client that had a very difficult time with me because I showed up early all the time. So, we had to face together. And it was kind of I didn't think I was doing something necessarily bad, but it was very offensive to her. And so that kind of taught me that some people, when you say you're going to be there at a certain time, that's the time that you need to be there. And to find that out about, each client, to find out, and you kind of have to, obviously kind of feel things out. But so now I am on time all the time, and I'm not early. And that really sacked me. But it was also a very important lesson for me to learn. That just because, I think something is okay and I think something is kind of the right way to be early, it's not always in the eyes of everybody else.
That's right. At the end of the day, we're out to serve our customers or our clients, or if we work for an organization, we want to work within the parameters that have been set forth by the larger powers that be. And when you're a solopreneur like you are, Julie, the powers that be are our clients. And here is this person who, her perception of you being early was not the same perception that you had of being early. And I think that's a terrific example of how we can learn and grow. Our clients can teach us things about ourselves and make us more aware of things about ourselves that we might not have necessarily thought of in that way before. So that was a great story and a great example of how you turned something that could have really been a disaster into a positive. And it sounds like you continued to serve this client. She didn't say bye-bye.
Yeah, it did get a little heated from my end. But one thing I learned from the whole thing was, another thing I did learn is when to walk away and just to, protect myself. But now, kind of had to go through this hurdle. But now we have this amazing relationship. I've been working for her for about 8 years. But we had to really get through that stumbling block. And it wasn't pretty, but boy, it sure was a good growing thing, I think, on definitely on both of our parts.
Absolutely. And it also speaks to how vital it is to communicate with the people that we work with and never take anything for granted or make assumptions.
Right.
And again, I think that's a great illustration for people who are listening who can apply to all kinds of situations. It could be with your boss, where your boss has one perception of the way to show up each day, and you have a different one, and they're both on paper perfectly fine. It's just when they're put up against each other, there's going to be that conflict. So again, thank you for sharing that insight. That's terrific.
Okay.
Another key area on this Move the Chains part of the program that fascinates me, and I know from the feedback I've been getting from listeners, fascinates them too, is all the shifts that we've been experiencing in the last few years, primarily from an offline world to a very online world. And I'm wondering, Julie, what specific shifts or changes have you personally experienced with your business or maybe even your personal life? And in what ways have those shifts either challenged you or perhaps inspired you?
There has been a lot of change. And my whole goal, through the economic change, and it has been just to stay in the game. If I can grow my business during these difficult times, that's awesome. But I never wanted to lose momentum. I just at least, I wanted to stay in the game. So I think first of all, for me, it was just making that decision that I'm in this for the long haul, and having that mindset kind of has helped me through the difficult times. Looking at the things in your business and figure out, what's working for you and what's not. Status quo isn't always the best. Just because people will say, "Oh, I've been doing it this way for so many years, and my business is doing this," and that's great. And so people oftentimes don't like to change because they're comfortable or they don't have to learn something new. But I'm always about, hey, sometimes you have to change status quo just because it needs change. It may be I believe changing my, recreating my website, every, 5 years. And I think that's really important because you always want something new for your clients, and you have to create yourself, make yourself a little bit more interesting, whether it's furthering your education or, for me was, writing a book. And so that was, again, just another level to take it up a different level and a different notch. Again, looking at those things in your business that are status quo and saying, okay, is it status quo because it's just normal, or this brings X amount of traffic into my website and that sort of thing. Technology is really not my gig. And it's our world. So I've hired different people to help me in this area. I've got a web designer, because I'm not, that's not what I'm good at, but he's excellent. I've got, other people, helping me with different things, whether it's, how to, use Twitter, or if you have an area that you're not sure of. We don't have to be good at everything. In other words, those areas that you're not expert in, seek help, and because then you can kind of have that complete picture in your business model.
Yes, and I'm all about, that's a takeaway that I emphasize over and over again on my show, and that is, you are going to be the master of one or two things, primary things, and then pick up some skills underneath that umbrella along the way. But everything else, there's somebody else out there who's a master at that. You mentioned your web designer. Mm-hmm. There are people who, like you, Julie, are just, technology isn't their gig. And there are lots of people out there who have a tremendous skill set that can make things happen for those who are not technically inclined or don't want to be, because they're out busy developing new business leads, or they're out busy delivering on the promises of the packages that they've sold to customers and clients. And so I think that big takeaway you just said is so vital, which is, don't feel like you have to know everything, because you won't and you can't, especially today. There's just too many platforms, and it can become a full-time job just to learn them, and then your business or your life suffers because you've thrown yourself into that and neglected what's most important.
Right. Technology, being out there, social media is huge, but if it prevents you from actually doing your job and getting your work done, that isn't a good thing. So just try to find that balance.
Definitely. Balance that's the holy grail of a modern life.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that brings us into probably my favorite part of the show, which is the touchdown. So let's take the ball into the end zone. So, Julie, you are in the red zone right now, and there are less than 30 seconds left on the clock. You're down by 3 points. It's third down, and it's now or never for you and your team. Tell us a story about a time when you overcame this obstacle, ran the ball into the end zone, and scored that game-winning touchdown.
I was just mentioning, that long-term client I had. One of the best moves that I made as a business owner, as we know, we always have to kind of be on call. And so I received an email on a Sunday afternoon, and I was like, okay, do I reply to this or not? And this person wanted help organizing. And I thought, oh, you know what? I should just do it. I've got time. I know it's a Sunday, but you know what? If she took her time out of her Sunday to write me, then I should do the same. So I responded to her with her 10 minutes, and she was so impressed because I took the time out of family time and made her feel, important by, getting back to her immediately. And that really set the tone for our relationship and our business relationship, where she knew that, I'm going to be on it. I'm not a slacker. I'm going to be on time, and on those, kinds of qualities. Really, for me, that was a huge move in making in that first down for her. And like I said, we have an amazing business, from then on. So that was huge in getting my touchdown.
And what about your book? I would like you to share a little bit more about, because that's definitely a big win to have a book out there published, working for you round the clock. What kind of benefits have you seen since becoming a published author in 2012?
Well, I think that I would really encourage anybody, to self-publish, that it is possible to self-publish. There's so many different means to self-publish, but really, really look at the publishing company really thoroughly. I've learned so much about things like resources, such as like Author Central. So if you have a book or are thinking about writing a book, Author Central is great for Amazon to promote your book. And so really getting connected with that. There's another resource out there called Haro, Haro, and that's Help a Reporter Out. And in doing that, it's like free to sign up. And there are reporters and journalists that are looking for experts in the industry. And it's a free way to be able to promote your book. But one thing I've learned is to talk to whoever is experts in your field that you want to model after, and to talk to them to see, find out their successes. And for me, it's been talking to other authors to find out, okay, what is working for you and what's not. What are the things the marketing tools that you need to really launch your book, just to continue to try new things. And really, I feel like that if you have the passion and drive to write your own book and to finish it, then that is very telling. But the next part is actually marketing the book, and that's a whole nother thing. So I would say search your soul and find out really the motive for book publishing. Is it you're just doing it for fun, or are you doing it to make money? Because that's going to really depend on how much time and work that you have to put in the book, once it's published.
Yeah, the book writing business has definitely changed in the last few years as well. It's been disrupted like just about every other major industry we know of. And your experiences of writing a book have definitely been positive. It's been not only a labor of love, but a big accomplishment. However, you did realize once you got out into the world that now, I have no one but myself to rely on to get the word out about this book. And so there are definitely a lot of questions that anybody who's considering writing a book needs to really think through. But it sounds to me like you would say if it's in your soul and you've got that dream, go for it. It has been definitely beneficial for you in a lot of different ways, but primarily you've gotten on television. You are a frequent guest on a local TV show here in the Portland area, and you are able to reach a much broader audience outside of your local area that you can share your expertise with and serve.
And I got to meet you.
And that's right. We get to meet really amazing people,
yes.
which
And so, building relationships, I love it. And it's really, it branched me out. And I love it because I have a kind of a whole nother world of friends, so I have like my author friends and my professional organizing friends. And so it's awfully exciting. It is. But it is very grueling to write a book. It's also very fulfilling. It's kind of like when you get your degree. Nobody can take it away from you. You have your education. Kind of like I feel like that with a book. You've accomplished it, and nobody can really take that accomplishment away from you. It feels great. It really does. But it was not with a lot of tears. and long days.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And for listeners today, links to Julie's book and some of the other things that she's talked about today on our show can be found over on her page at maryloukaser.com/Julie. And Julie, as we finish out the show today, why don't you leave listeners with a couple of key offensive strategies straight out of the Julie Starr Hook playbook that listeners could implement right now to move the chains of their life or business down the field and into the end zone?
I think really the first thing I would say is, are you doing your passion? Are you doing your passion? If you love what you do, then the sky is the limit. If you don't love what you do, consider trying something else. Especially when you're a business owner, it's a 24/7 deal. And when you're on, and you have to be on all the time. And if you love what you do, then it makes all the difference in the world. So if any of you are struggling about, is something that I really love, then I think it's just important to have times of reflection where you can challenge yourself to say, is this where you should be in your life? And I continue to get affirmations, and I have such joy in my work, and that just drives me to want to grow and build my business. And so I use that as my driver. And again, I think the other thing is it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to, humble yourself and ask for help, because it can be humbling to say, what, I don't know the answer to this, or, I need to hire an expert to do this for me. And it's okay to not be like Superman or Superwoman. And I think that the last thing is, I heard this one day and this resonated with me. Strive for excellence in everything and not perfection. So give up on perfection, because perfection simply is unattainable, and strive for excellence in your life. And that's what I try to do every day, is to strive for excellence.
I love that. That is such a great way to wrap things up. But before we go, what is the best way, Julie, for people to connect with you online? Where are you hanging out these days?
Well, of course, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. And, I think Five Star Organizing and Design probably is the best. FIVESTARR organizing.com. So that's 5starorganizing.com. And I've got all kinds of fun things to look up on my website, like contact page. And if you're interested in my book, it will link you to my book on Amazon and on Redemption Press.
Fantastic. And again, you can find all of these resources and more about Julie at maryloukaser.com/Julie. And Julie, it has been so much fun to have you on the show. You are a bundle of energy. You inspire me to realize that I will never be organized, and that's okay, because I can hire people like you.
That's right.
To help me.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you for your time and your willingness to share your expertise with the listeners of the Play Your Position podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's guest as much as I did. And remember, you can find the show notes from today's episode over at maryloukaser.com/podcast. I would also so appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to leave me a quick 5-star review on iTunes so more people can find this program and benefit from the wisdom my guests share. I look forward to seeing you on future episodes, and in the meantime, it's a great day to get out there and play your position.
Thanks for listening to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count at maryloukaser.com.